All right, then the first item will be the approval of the minutes from March 10th. Can we do regular and executive session together?
You can.
Sure.
All right. So as we stated earlier, it's going to be a roll call. Are there any changes?
Nope.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
So I guess we'll roll call for it then? Is that, are we roll calling for everything?
Yeah.
We need
All
Andy
right.
to second, right? Somebody to second?
How does that work now? Like, somebody explain
I
this
think-
process to me?
I think
First,
he
you have
needs
to
a
second it, Andy.
Second,
Motion
I
and a
second.
Okay, I thought I heard that.
All right. Now for roll call.
heard.
Hill, yes.
Hill, yes, yeah.
Hill, yes.
Cunningham, yes.
Done, yes.
Right.
Excellent. First hurdle
Unanimous.
over.
Good
I
job,
like it.
guys.
Woohoo. On to the financial report.
Okay. Just a couple of notes that I did put there on the cover. So you've got the latest, which was probably about a week ago. If you recall, this is a year, which I think I did put up the front, the reminder there that we voted to put up to $150,000 of school choice towards operations. So at the run rate right now, it doesn't look like we would use all of that, which in the past, when we haven't needed to, we haven't. A couple of things I did want to note. The special ed, the out-of-district tuition, transportation, that's not new to us. We just always seem to be trying to get caught up between homeless and foster care. So that's a little bit off. But I think we did bump it next year. So hopefully we'll finally catch up with it next year. But a couple of notes I wanted to make is we did negotiate, and this is the first time we've actually met with this crew. So you may or may not realize that right out of the gate, as soon as things started shutting down, both the feds as well as the state as well as local, transportation became a really hot topic. And the issue was there may be some federal reimbursement coming, but right off the bat, the powers that be were strongly recommending that we try not pay our, especially transportation vendors. The big concerns were if we can avoid putting them into unemployment and then losing them and not having them when we finally need them, that we should do so. Your transportation vendor to boot is a local guy. So we did with them, just as we've done with all of our staff, is continue to pay. They are doing, I've gotten assurance that they are doing just as our internal staff is. They're doing professional development. They're cleaning the vehicles. They're taking the vehicles out for runs to make sure they're still maintained well, et cetera, doing their best. But the bottom line is McCarthy did not lay the staff off, and I agreed to continue to pay across the district with the exception of Sturbridge. But what I did do was negotiate with him a lower than contracted rate, taking into account at least the gasoline and some general repair supplies that wouldn't be used. Mm-hmm. I also went so far as to actually negotiate all of the savings to be applied to the elementary bills as opposed to the Tantascwa bills, because we're still being told by the state, whatever we pay our vendors for the region will be subject to regional transportation. So if I pay them less, I'm going to get less regional transportation in a year, and that's going to cause another cycle of a line issue at your town meeting. So I thought this worked out well to say, we're going to pay the bill in total at the region, but the region's savings as well as the elementary savings we're taking out of the elementary bill. So bottom line is, we've negotiated about there should be about $13,000 left on the regular transportation line item by year end. It is my recommendation that when all is said and done, usually at the end of the year, whatever we need of that $150,000 of school choice, we do the journal entry and transfer. I would suggest that we make sure we use enough school choice money to give back the town at least that 13,000. We can look at other lines and see where we're at, but when all is said and done, I feel like we should do our best to also help the town's coffers and their future financial needs. So that's a recommendation right now. We'll come back and look at it in June, but I see no reason why we shouldn't be having that money there and still use less than the 150,000 of school choice. So have some reserves for the next couple of years, because we're anticipating the next couple of years are going to be a little rough. Any questions on that, on the transportation subject? Just the other thing, wanted to know, again, God, I cannot believe this is the first time we're seeing this crew, Erin.
I know.
We have since day one been preparing food bags that actually cover both breakfast and lunch for those in need. That we, right away, the first week we sent out to all students and families, anyone that felt the need for, mostly it's the free and reduced population. So for the for the first, until we were shut down for the year, we were preparing bags every Monday that had 5 days worth of lunches and breakfasts in the bags. We prepare them at the high school, and then we ship them out to the elementary schools where they're picked up. So regardless of whether they're elementary or secondary students, families, they pick up in their hometown. So at Brookfield Elementary, I think we're up to 50-ish. Does that sound right, Kathleen?
Yeah, it fluctuates between 48 and 50 depending on whether it's a Monday or a Thursday.
Yeah. So it's 50 bags of food being picked up that cover, we just started when we closed, we found out originally we didn't even know if we could get reimbursed for this, and we thought we couldn't, but we were still doing the right thing. We're paying your cafeteria staff, we're putting out food to those that are needy in town, and we just knew it was the right thing to do. Ultimately, the state did put us in the designated area that we need to be that allows for reimbursement. So we will ultimately get reimbursement. Granted, we're not putting out as many meals as we do when we are in school, and we're still paying your staff. So we're going to lose money. The fund is absolutely going to lose money. We started last week. Last week we started, when we got this designation to allow the reimbursement, it included the designation to allow weekend meal reimbursement. So last week we started Monday and Thursday bags and pickups. So the Thursday bag covers meals for the weekend. Which the families are, obviously very happy. And Brookfield has held pretty steady. I've got another town that's sort of up and down. Brookfield has held pretty steady, and very grateful for the Monday and Thursday. But that being said, we're going to end up short. I don't know if we will drain the revolving fund to the point of it being down to zero, because you always had a positive balance, unlike most of the other elementaries. But that's another thing that I think I want to look at in June, is to see if it's drained down pretty low. Certainly if it's in the hole, we've got to bail it out. We can't have a revolving fund on the town's books that's negative. But even if it's not negative, and we think that maybe paying June's salaries from the budget would help you start with your cafeteria revolving fund next year, not right at zero, I'll come back and recommend that. So I'm looking at that. Those are the only couple of year-end things I want to keep in mind as we're closing things down. Other than that, we certainly, we hopefully we will end up with utilities a bit, lower than it has been in the past, probably some supply lines, but there won't be a lot of savings in the salary. The only salary line that will have some potential savings is substitutes. Other than that, all your staff is still working, in many cases harder than even before. So whether they're remote teaching or they're still there every day cleaning your building, or preparing and delivering the meals, the salary lines are likely going to be expended to right about where we budget, other than the subs. So again, we're going to get through this year fine, but.
I just have a question about the meals.
Yeah.
So 48 to 50 bags, is that 48 to 50 families, or are there families getting multiple bags?
Yeah, that's
Per
48 to
student.
50 individual students. So maybe
Oh,
it's
okay.
40 families.
Okay.
40 families, 50 bags.
Okay, so it's one bag per student.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Yep. Yep. And I mean, it's kind of, it's actually, I think in your communications, you probably have a copy.
Mhm.
You recall in communications?
Yep.
You have yes.
Yeah, it's
In communications, we gave a sample that the Tantascwa food service director, actually every single bag, she writes this up listing what meals are in there, what food items are in there, and then she's taken it upon herself to put a little activity on the back there for the kids, which I think is awesome. But that gives you an idea of the kinds of things, which is, really interesting, that on Monday it's one bag that each kid's getting, but they're getting 6 meals in that one bag, and then they're getting another 8 meals on the Thursday bag. So they're technically cranking out a good number of meals every Monday and Thursday, all things considered. Across the district, they're at about 220 to 230 bags each Monday and Thursday.
That's really great. They're doing that.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. So that's it on this year's budget. I suppose if you'd like, I can take a minute or two to let you know what our latest crystal ball reading says about next year. It truly is. I mean, everybody has a different thought perspective. We've got nothing. We have zero communication from the state. I had in the last 2 weeks, maybe 1 or 2 inquiries from your finance committee. I think I may have copied you on one of the responses or so, just sort of asking questions and our thoughts. And I've certainly explained everything that I just explained to you guys, that for the most part, staff is still working and we're going to spend those dollars, but we may have a few bucks to turn back to the town. But other than that, everybody is truly in this hurry up and wait mode. We have no idea, other than it can't be good. That anyone who thinks that we're coming out of this budget season the way we thought we were going to in February is living under the rock. But the legislators have not even given us a hint as to what revenue number they're going to start projecting. And I think at some point in time, they've got to throw a dart at the board and pick a projected number, which will be $4-5 billion short from this year, and may very well get to September, October, November and find out they picked the wrong number and they need to be making adjustments. Not likely to the good, but until the House actually at least does that and gives their first guess as to what they want, we don't really know where to go. We have been looking at a couple of things where, like, okay, well, Chapter 70 could go a couple of ways. They could either say there's going to be an overall percentage decrease. Someone out there said the number 10%, but that never came from a legislator. That just came from when we're all at roundtable conferences and everybody's trying to guess what to do. I personally think that, which is what Erin and I have been starting to kind of do, is pencil what would it look like at least if Chapter 70 was level funded. And level funded for Brookfield is a much bigger cut than level funded for our other member towns who weren't getting additional money for the Student Opportunity Act. If you recall, Brookfield was getting a bump. So it's total guesswork to say that they'd be looking at that. But I'm sure that's at least part of the conversation. When the legislators are saying, what do we do? I'm sure they're saying, can we afford to implement that Student Opportunity Act this year? Or do we consider putting it off? Or do we consider, some hybrid? But the reminder for you folks, because of the Student Opportunity Act, Chapter 70 for Brookfield was going to increase $124,000. So if Chapter 70 was level funded alone, it's $124,000 potential concern. So again, I'm really trying to be right in the middle. I'm not trying to be optimistic, but I'm also not being the worst pessimist as some folks around us are, but we're just starting on the side to look at where could we squeeze the budget, what could we do. We know what we have in reserves, we know we have school choice, but the more you put towards school choice, the bigger cliff you're building. So where's the balance between not really decimating our programs, but also not building a huge cliff? So we will have more conversations. I'm hoping by the end of this month that maybe we get a peek at what the House wants to do. But we're just, we may be hamsters on a wheel at this point in time. We might be building scenarios, none of which work, but we just feel like we can't sit here and do nothing.
I saw that town elections are now the 29th of June. Where are we at for town meeting?
Okay, so that was the next thing. So
Okay,
we have
sorry.
heard nothing other than the initial, well, actually, your town had already pushed it 1 week.
Mhm.
I don't know if all of you were aware. Originally, I'm looking at my dates.
It was the 18th original. Well,
No, that was the new one.
The new
It was
original, right.
originally Friday the 12th, because we
Right,
love our Friday nights. And I was like just ecstatic to see that they pushed it, but they pushed it before even the pandemic broke, I think.
Mhm. They did.
They pushed it for night 1 to be on Thursday the 18th.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I don't
So
have that.
that's where we are right now. However, all communities are still, we had 3 of them that were supposed to happen in May that, we're quite sure are not going to happen in May. They were actually all going to be next week. So a couple of things are happening. It's a 2-pronged problem. It's what do we look at for numbers? How do we even recommend a budget without knowing what the state's going to do? But if we don't come up with some kind of budget, if the towns don't have their town meeting by June 30th, the entire town, not just schools, will be put in a 1/12 budget scenario, which pretty much means you level fund what you got last year, divide it by 12, and that's how much money you get to spend each month. Not a huge problem for schools that don't spend a whole lot in July and August, but a problem for your police and your fire and your highway if indeed the community planned on funding more than level. So that's issue number 1 while they build their recommendations. Issue number 2 clearly is, how can we have a safe town meeting? Erin, you probably were copied. I just in the last hour forwarded, Erin and I got communication from our legal counsel a week ago or almost 2 weeks ago now.
just a week ago.
Yeah, that legislation has been proposed, I believe it's sitting in the Senate, to allow a community to hold its town meeting, hold its annual town budget portion of town meeting outside of its community, if it's what's safest for them, meaning they can have it at the high school.
Oh.
So I forwarded that to the selectmen to share and say, we would be more than happy to host you at the high school. I'm quite sure in the auditorium, knowing how many usually show up in the cafeteria there at the elementary school, we could fit them in the auditorium using the second tier and socially distant. We do have one of our member towns that have already asked and plugged in a date in June. And Sturbridge always has it at the high school. So we're sharing that as an option, at least to take away the physical space of how do we have it in a socially distant world. If they can get over the hurdle of at least coming up with something to recommend, that would be awesome. So I'm hopeful. I guess I'm just going to be completely optimistic and hope that Brookfield sticks with June 18th and has it at the high school in the auditorium, and on we go. Now, that doesn't mean we won't be back someplace in September or October, because whatever we guess in June turns out to be not real, but it would be something. So I'll keep you posted from there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
That was probably the longest financial report we've had in a while. Thanks, guys.
No other questions, I'm guessing?
Nope.
PTO report?
There was no PTO meeting.
All right, thank you. Public access?
Mary, can we share the Kermit Eaton story? Okay. So,
I think you're on mute.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
hear you. But anyway, so I got a call on a Sunday morning from Kermit Eaton telling me he had a lovely sign on his yard that said, "We miss you so much and we love you, love Mrs. Casey." And he called and he said, "I think she wants East Main Street, not West Main Street, because I don't think I'm one of her kindergarten students." He started by saying, "Do you have a Mrs. Casey?" I said, "I sure do." "Teach kindergarten?" "She sure does." And he thought it was adorable, though. He was not offended in the least, and he was really thrilled to see how our teachers are reaching out to students. So she did come and pick up her sign and deliver it to the right student.
It's cute.
I have seen those around town. That's really neat. All right. Well,
That's
thank
it
you.
for public access.
Perfect. On to communications then.
We did look at the food service information before, just as an FYI. And then we included an article that Tony Bent actually sent us and suggested we share with you. He thought the group would enjoy reading it. He was our facilitator from our retreat, which seems like 5 years ago, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
All time is just off. But hopefully you'll enjoy that. That's it for communications.
Thank you. On to the principal's report.
Okay, so just a few things from my actual report. I just want to publicly praise our staff, our entire staff. Teachers, they're doing a remarkable job. It has been a tough learning process for all of them. Just a few were actually using Google Classroom prior to this, very few. It's not our thing at elementary, and many of them, in fact, all but one teacher now, classroom teacher, is using the Google Classroom for instruction. So just so proud of them, because they really had to really grit and show some grit to learn those systems. And we're still tweaking, still learning, but I'm watching the assignments as they're coming in. Kids are getting more proficient. They're participating. I now have a couple of classes that have 100% attendance. A lot of that is due to us getting out technology to families who did not have either enough or the right kind. So thank you to school committee and our tech team for helping me facilitate that, getting that technology out. I have a few more devices going out tomorrow, but I think that's it. We'll have all students then covered. So tech team, they've been marvelous through this. We've already talked about the cafeteria. My guidance staff has been incredible. When kids have sort of fallen off the grid, they've been sort of the arm to reach out in a very family-friendly way to say, "We aren't mad at you. What can we do to help you? We know it's tough." And parents have responded well to that. So just want to praise my team. They're a marvelous, marvelous team, and they've done a fabulous job. So that's it for my report. And then I do want to look at our school improvement plan. So it's a little bit challenging because the school improvement plan for our first goal, student achievement, is relying upon MCAS data, which we will not have, obviously. So what I will likely do is take the numbers and shift to the numbers to what they should have been this year, so that next year they'll be the same numbers, because we won't have had that interim assessment. So it's really setting up targets for a 2-year window instead of a 1-year window. So that's probably what I'll do. If you got it in color, you'll see that the numbers are red. Those are the old numbers, and I'm going to put in the new numbers. That'll just be a 2-year window for our learning. The second thing I want to target in this is, if you go to goal 2, FY21, my team will not be together again until September. My advisory council is teacher, parent, and myself. My guidance counselors on the team. What I really want to do is add in, which we did not have and obviously didn't need before all of this, a goal around grief and trauma and fear, helping students reintegrate back into school, and really, at least through the first trimester, helping them facilitate their fear about lost knowledge, and they don't know how to do things, and all of the things that are going to come from this. We just don't even know what they are yet, but I want a goal really around supporting that effort to do more than just PBIS, but trauma support, because we don't know where it's going to come from, what students will come back with, and some may be fine that we didn't anticipate would be, and others may fall apart that we never saw coming. So I'm going to be adding in that type of goal, but I want to wait until my team is pulled together so that we can do it collaboratively. I don't want to do anything to this plan without collaborating with my team. So we will do that right away in September. And rather than share the success outcomes with you like I usually do in October, what I will be sharing with you is the adaptations to the plan or modifications to it to take us through the FY21 season. And then the last thing, my parent involvement in communication, that's pretty sound. I don't really need to do much with it. But the very last goal for technology for FY21, we're already talking about the fact that we need an additional Chromebook cart, and that will serve two purposes. It will get a second cart in the building, but it will also bring in some Chromebooks that may be needed to take the place of some that are damaged beyond repair because of being utilized by students who aren't going to intentionally break things, but they're just young and they may not have enough adult supervision to keep them from happening. And then maybe to purchase some additional iPads to replace any broken ones. I'm hoping that number is less than 6, but I will be adding that into the technology as well, just replacing damaged or broken items. So that is it for the things I want to do with the improvement plan for next year. Are there any questions about that?
I had none.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then I'm all set.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Superintendent's report.
Okay, thanks. I'd like to reiterate what Kathleen said. Thanks to everybody. It's been challenging 7 or 8 weeks trying to onboard and taking this thing that we know as school, which looks a certain way, feels a certain way, and try and make it remote. And I appreciate everybody's hard work as well as all the support staff, the cleaning, the lunches, everything, really an outstanding job. And I'm very fortunate to work with great leaders. Our leadership team has just been amazing, in spite of me nagging them and needing meetings and everything. They're just great job. So we did send out actually the family letter that the commissioner sent us. We were expecting it a week ago, but it did come Friday night. So I forwarded it to all of you and then sent it out to families, kind of outlining phase 3, which is what we describe we're in now, really trying to hit new standards or skills, requisite skills that kids are going to need to be most successful in the next year. So he kind of shrunk down and said there might be these other standards that are important, but they can be embedded in other curriculum as the students move forward. So he also challenges us, you can see in phase 4, to start thinking about what that reentry looks like for students, for staff, for everybody. We are all waiting to hear from the governor regarding what his phase 1 will look like, and then how quickly we can get to his phase 2, because that's going to tell us a lot about what it will look like next year in the classrooms, how things will go. So more to come on that, but our teachers have done an outstanding job. They really kind of made that pivot to phase 3 a week or 2, in some cases a little bit longer, few weeks before that, to kind of identifying those new standards that we need to do some direct instruction.
we worry about but continue to reach out to any students who are not engaging with remote learning. It can be very, very challenging for children, for their homes, if their parents are working, if there are multiple children. It's just very, very hard. I jokingly, before we even start, said I come to the office every day because I cannot work at home. It's very, very challenging, and I'm lucky to be able to come to do that, but not every family has that flexibility. So continue to monitor students. We did receive some funding through the federal government, through the CARES Act. It got funneled through the Title I formula. And that we've been told we have to apply for it, but it's an entitlement grant. So as long as we do the process, we'll be fine. And those funds can support anything related to COVID-19 and the shutdown, whether it be additional cleaning, additional supplies. We could look at, maybe we need some more thermometers, maybe we need guards, on tables. So, I mean, we really haven't even started to really put our minds towards what will be needed to onboard kids again next year. So that it's about $60,000 that we have from that, but we're just going to leave that right now. We will commit to doing it after July 1st. It can be used for remedial programs for students, truly everything from cleaning supplies to direct instruction and everything in the middle. So,
and it is the good news with it, we could have gotten it before June 30th or some of it if needed, but as I just said, I think we're fine getting through this year. Getting it after July 1st, it actually has a 2-year lifespan. So unlike a lot of grants or awards that need to close within a year, this actually is 2 years. So they certainly know that the problems we're about to have are more than a 3-month up to a 2-year problem. So our hope is that we can really have those there in case, well, not even in case, we know we're going to need to provide some extra remediation, whether that be summer or fall or next year, and additional cleaning, etc. But it's great that we can sit there and kind of, use it slowly as opposed to needing to spend it quickly. And the intention is not for it to just kind of fill holes with these budget problems. It's knowing that we're going into a tough budget year and we actually need more, because there are things that are going to happen that we've never dealt with before, and we'd like to have some funds to deal with that at a time when we're worried about having budget cuts. It's good to know that that will be there.
Yeah, it's a great resource. So I don't know if you have any questions on the remote learning plans or updates up till now.
Not up till now, but will this be something that they could consider maybe for snow days in the future?
That's a real interesting question, because now that we know how to do remote instruction, I am confident there will be districts who will ask that exact question, is if we can ensure that students have devices at home or are able to access curriculum that day, we now know how to do it. So why couldn't we? So yeah, it's a good point. Anything's possible. Our town meeting was June 18th. As Deb said, she spoke to it a little bit under finance. So as far as the June school committee meeting goes, we could either choose to move it to that date. We could keep it. Right now it is scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th. We might want to think about holding both dates, because once we start to get some information from the state, we're going to know what course of action we need to take as it relates to potential budget cuts or additional requirements from the state. So we don't need to decide now. We'll just keep them both on the books. But what we had done usually in June is just go right up against the town meeting. And as Deb said, we don't even know the town meeting is happening the 18th or not. So we will.
It's not on their calendar right now. They've taken it off of the town calendar.
The 18th?
Yeah, there's nothing on right now. It just has Board of Selectmen and Advisory Committee on the 18th.
Okay.
I can hold them both.
you
It
know
turns
for
out I
sure?
don't have any plans, so I can just hold them
Do
both.
you know for sure that it ever was, Kathleen? I mean, I don't check out that calendar. I don't know if it ever got put up to
It
begin
was
with.
originally on,
Okay.
but that was way back on the 12th. Then they took it off of the 12th, and I haven't seen it since.
Okay.
All right, so it's probably not happening then the 18th.
Who knows?
But it may. So we'll just plan on meeting June 9th, and then we'll go from there. There is likelihood that we will need to meet over the summer, again, depending on what comes from the state regarding information, and then what expectations they have for us in planning and all sorts of things like that. Our joint meeting, just a reminder, is May 26th at 6 p.m. Whether that will be virtual or in real time, I don't know. I did listen to the governor today at noontime, and I think he indicated that people would find out on the 18th what was going to be open on the 18th. So that didn't sound super optimistic to me, but if he does open and says that we can have meetings, up to 50 that are socially distant, we might be able to have it in person, but to be continued. I just wanted to make sure everybody had that on their calendar. And that will be for the purpose of next year's calendar, as well as the superintendent evaluation and reorg. Next year's calendar, we'll talk about it at the joint meeting, but probably, what, Deb? It had to be at least a month and a half ago when they moved the Boston Marathon to Monday, September 14th. I think that's still a Monday. There were many Eastern Mass superintendents who were frantic about having Boston Marathon when they had school, and people had started to say, oh no, it's going to become a holiday, just a one-year holiday. So we've heard nothing since that. And then we kind of joking, like 2 weeks later when we had our next frantic chaos call with the superintendents across the state, their number one question was, do we know if September 14th is a holiday? That would really help us. And I thought, our world is so boring that you are
That is your priority.
I want to be where you are.
That's what we said.
They're just
That's
going to
not
move
our
Bunker
world.
Hill Day? Is that what they're doing?
Well, I mean, in the end, the bottom line is the commissioner talked to the governor and confirmed that, yes, they will make that a holiday. But the fact that that was one of the most important things for that particular superintendent to get an answer right away, Erin and I were like, what? I want those problems then.
And we've never seen anything in writing that it's a holiday. This is what the commish says. The governor said, oh yeah, that's going to be a holiday. So the reason I mention that is if everything was closed and it was a one-time state holiday, we would have to amend the calendar for next year just a bit, and then we can talk on the 26th around what that might look like for that one day. And then the CARES Act, and that's all we have right now. I did see today that the U.S. Senate was sending some signals to the House of Representatives that there'd be no more federal aid going. They're trying to pass an enormous bill that would funnel money to states and local governments, and the majority, the Senate, had basically said it was not. I don't know whether they weren't, I believe dead on arrival was the headline. So, but whether we're going to ultimately get something, just not that giant package.
That was the 3 trillion.
Really, yeah. It's hard to keep those numbers. They just throw those money numbers around like trillions, gazillion dollars. So
Sounds make-believe. I think it is make-believe, actually.
It sounds odd. So that's all I have regarding that. I want to thank everybody again, and we will be squirreling, as Deb said, some money away, any little bits from grants that we can. We've been told we can basically roll everything over. We don't have a ton. We spend pretty efficiently when we write our federal grants, but there might be a little that we can squirrel away for next year.
Well, thank you. Tantascwa rep.
Yeah, I didn't prepare a formal report, but we did meet on Wednesday, the 29th, virtually. The seniors are hoping for some sort of graduation ceremony. I think at this point we haven't really been able to commit to anything, but they're holding out hope,
Poor
even if
kids.
it's outdoors or, or later in the summer.
I don't know if you guys know Karen's son is graduating. Karen Myrecki. He's
yeah.
a senior,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
she's cheering for it.
Yeah, no, they need something. And it sounds like the junior high and the senior high obviously took a little bit easier to the online learning just because they were already regularly using Google Classroom. Principals and guidance counselors have been reaching out to students as needed just to make sure, as Dr. Hosterman and Aaron said, just to keep students engaged. And I think they were at 98%.
wow.
Yep, they said it was it's been pretty
participation.
good. Yeah.
So pretty good considering. And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up was the superintendent evaluation. So we had talked about that at the Tantasco meeting, and I haven't heard anything since.
It's coming. I
Okay.
had to send, in fact, it's in my draft in my Google Mail. Mike wanted to review something and I sent it to him and he just hasn't gotten back, but I'm sending them out anyways. I'm sending it
Okay.
out today.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss
Yes,
it or didn't go
no,
to junk
no,
mail or something.
No, before I leave. So tonight you will get an email with the documents, the goals update, and then Greg will send out the link to the Survey Monkey tomorrow.
Okay. So Kyle and Andy, you should both complete
Yep.
one, as will I. And then
Will do.
Brookfield will be 100% participation. That'll be awesome.
I'll have to
Otherwise,
check
I
my
have
calendar.
to start texting.
Done, yes.
Done.
I think that's all I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg.
Mhm.
We have no unfinished business, so we can go on to the new business.
Just a few updates. The superintendent evaluation we just talked about. So just a reminder, you'll get everything tonight. The documents and the survey will come tomorrow. And the chairs ask that you fill it out by, I think, the 20th, which is just about a week to get it done. But we've had the best returns when, frankly, the window is shorter. Those years that there's 3.5, 4 weeks to fill it out. We get nobody, I think it just sits on the kitchen counter or something, so.
I turned it in a day late. So.
So we'll keep the window tight for folks in hopes that works well. The teacher evaluation update, because the teacher evaluation tool lives in, as you know, your contract, I'm just looking for your endorsement that I can continue to work with the teachers through the evaluation process. Clearly, we can't meet the timelines that are established in the contract if we're out of school, and I think everybody agrees that trying to continue with an evaluation through remote learning is just not at all practical. So I'm just looking for your support or formal vote to allow me to continue to work with the teachers to update the timeline and process for this year's evaluation.
So that was for working with the teachers for the timeline and process? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
for using the whole evaluation tool and timelines.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to take a vote on it, group?
That would
That
probably
makes sense.
be good. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so I guess we'll make a motion for support and the continuance for the supporting the teacher. What's the teachers for their timeline and process for their teacher
To allow
evaluation?
me to continue to work with the teacher evaluation. Yeah.
To work with the teacher evaluation.
Process.
Karen, you got that, right?
She's got it.
Sounds about right.
Okay. I second that. If that was a motion, I second it.
There was a motion. Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do a roll call.
Yep.
Hill, yes.
Cunningham, yes?
Done, yes.
All right, great.
Thank you. And then finally, another formal vote here, even though we've already sort of moved ahead, and that's as it relates to the school calendar. Typically, you vote the 5 snow days because the law says you have to, but with the closing of school, there was conversation back and forth that I actually had with the chairs around the desire to continue the remote learning process in April, once we had just started and felt like we kind of had gotten our legs under us. So we did move forward with that and work the holiday as well as through April vacation for remote learning days. So with those days added as instructional days, the last day of school for students will now be June 12th. And I did send that message out. And our faculty and staff's last day will be Monday, June 15th. So again, it's more of a kind of ceremonial vote, but if you could vote to just support that and recognize the last day for students and staff, that would be great.
All right. So I'll make a motion again to support the revised 19 to 20 school calendar for the last day being June 12th for students and June 15th for teachers and support staff.
Second.
Roll call vote. Hill, yes.
Cunningham, yes.
Dunn, yes.
There's a delay
Right.
on yours.
Thank you.
We're being recorded, Cunningham. All right. I want it to be clear for the audience.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I just want, when we talked about the calendar, because I did have a number of questions that we had not voted to formally change, and that was purposeful. That was by design. When I was reaching out to the unions the end of March, the beginning of April, their feeling was that we didn't know what was going to happen with the closing of school, and they wanted to kind of keep open the possibility of kid days in June. So when we did go remote, and then he extended it again to May 4th, the feeling was that maybe we could have a couple remote learning days off on Friday, but make them up when we get to go back to see kids in June, even if it's for 2 days or 3 days. But obviously that once the governor canceled the school for the rest of the year, we're just staying in remote. But I just want to give you that information because I know I had a number of questions on, well, if you worked April vacation, how did you not know that when school was going to end? It's because we really wanted to keep that kid FaceTime flexibility there, but sadly did not happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public access. I don't think we have any. We're good. And I guess we'll motion to adjourn or to
You can
go into executive session?
Yeah, we should have taken that adjourn off.
yeah. So we'll motion to move into executive session. Roll call
Second.
vote. Oh, second, sorry. Good call. Roll call now. Hill, yes.
Cunningham, yes.
Dunn, yes.
You just need to read for the record while you're going into
Oh,
executive.
okay. So it's to request to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. Is that sufficient or
Keep going.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can read the whole thing.
read the whole thing? All right. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares.
One more line.
Oh, the committee will adjourn from executive session.
Night.
Good night.
Good
Night.
night, Casey.
Okay.
Stacy, thank you.
Bye.
Aaron, have a good night.
And what I can check out too?
Yes,
Yep.
you can check out too. Yes.
Thank you
Dr.
very
Huffman.
much.
Thank you,
Have a good
doctors.
evening,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.
You too, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.